Okay, let's get started in just a regular seated position. You can put a block underneath your sit bones. That will help your pelvis tilt forward. And put your sit bones so far forward that if your legs weren't there, you would just slide right off. And what that does, that allows your knees to drop below your hip points. And that permits your groins to release. And by release, I mean it eliminates tension. If your knees are up high, you can feel your legs are kind of bouncy. You could put a block underneath to help stabilize, one or both, or a towel. From here, stretch your chest high, the crown of your head up towards the ceiling, tucking in your chin just a bit. Allow your eyes to close. Oh, by the way, I'm Clint, and this is Yin Yoga. Yeah, met everybody else in the class. So anyway, so from here, close your eyes. And on an inhale, lift your shoulders up towards your ears, rotate them back towards the back of the room, and then just let your shoulder blades drift down your back. Breathe in and out through your nose. And breathing out, in and out through your nose is really important because you're getting more oxygen from each breath when you breathe through your nose. As you breathe through your nose, that air has to travel through your nasal cavities, through the back of your throat, down into your lungs. And the pressure, atmospheric pressure is increased by about 25% when it finally comes into your lungs. That means there's more air, more oxygen inside your lungs that can be absorbed by your blood. All you'll need for this class is your own natural breath. So just observe it. Observe if it's deep and strong. Maybe your breath varies. That's okay. That's the breath that's kept you healthy. There's no need to correct it, improve it, or modify it in any way. Throughout today's practice, use your breath to direct your blood flow to those areas of your body that have the greatest amount of sensation. With practice, you will be able to direct your blood flow. And use your breath to help your body get into a position a little bit more easily. And I'll cue that when we get into those kinds of poses. Begin to deepen your breath. On your next inhale, open your eyes. If you're on a block, You can keep the block where it is, or you can remove it. The first pose that we're going to do is butterfly. So butterfly, bring your soles of your feet together. Now there's a vast range of poses, the dimensions that you can have here. You could have your heels right up to your pubic bone or way out in front. Doesn't really matter. This pose is intended to target your groins and your spine. And what I'd like you to do, if you have the two blocks available, just bring them on the outsides of your legs, but don't let them quite touch. You're going to just sense where they are. And if you're a man, you have some hair on your legs that you can probably feel or sense the block. But from here, just lift your chest high. I tried to do this yesterday, and I'll do it a little different today. Bring your hands behind your hips. And then on an inhale, arch the small of your back. What that's doing is it's tilting your pelvis forward. Feel how that is. And it's going to be really challenging because you'll probably fall back if your hands can come free. But remove one hand and another, and then the other, coming forward, keeping your hips tilted forward, and then walk your hands forward. Drawing your collarbones towards the front of the room, and the crown of your head towards the far wall. And when you get to a point where your back or your legs tell you to stop, just pause there. Maybe adjust your blocks again so that you can feel or that you can detect that they're right underneath part of your ankle or your knees. And then begin to soften. And to help soften, maybe you want to just bend your elbows, let them drift in towards your hips. Maybe bring your palms facing up. Let your head just bow forward. Close your eyes and turn inside so that you can see what's happening inside your tissues. Notice where those sensations are greatest and breathe into those. It may be in your back, maybe in your groins or your legs. And if it's in your shoulders or your arms, definitely bend your elbows and just let them be supported by your ankles. At some point, you may detect that you have a lot more contact with that block. That just shows you how much your muscles are softening. How much stress and tension is being placed into your fascia. And remember that this yin pose, the yin class, is dynamic. Your edge, that point where you stretch and your body will still be able to soften, continues to change. Every day is different, and every pose is different at a different part of the pose. So if you come to a point where it becomes too easy, you're too relaxed, maybe inhale, stretch your collarbones towards the front of the mat a little bit more, moon the person behind you, and then fold forward again. You may need to adjust the location of your blocks so that you can detect the amount of movement or not. Those blocks are just a reference for you so that you can see how much your muscles are softening. Begin to deepen your breath. Begin walking your hands back, straightening up your spine. Remove the blocks aside. Use both hands to help your knees come up and put your footprints on the mat. And your hands behind your hips. And just notice if there's any tension that you can detect in your hips right now. And then pay close attention as you begin to windshield wiper one direction and then the other. Maybe you can feel your hip flexors. Maybe you can feel your hip sockets. It's all good. And the next time you come to center, pause. Sit all the way up. Then come over onto your favorite hip and bring your feet around behind you. And come up into table. And do a few cat-cows here. So you start with your knees directly below your hips, your wrist crease directly below your shoulders. You inhale, your belly drops, your chest comes forward, your sit bones lift and separate. And then exhale, round your spine, tuck your tailbone under, your chin comes towards your chest. And do a couple of these. And the next time you come to center, pause. From here, lift your right leg up and back, push that wall away with your foot. Feel that right hamstring stretch. And then on an exhale, bring that right foot up alongside your right pinky. And then maybe move that left knee back an inch or so, coming into dragon. So bring your hands up onto your knee. And dragon has all kinds of options here. But the most important thing to remember is you want to drop your hips towards the mat. Now, there are lots of ways to do that. And getting there, one of the ones that has made this pose tolerable for me is overstepping that right knee so it comes maybe even forward of your right toes. That will get some stretch into your Achilles and your calf muscles. But if you do that, still draw your right hip back. You can feel your psoas, the front of your left thigh, right at your hip crease. That's where both of your hip flexors cross. You can push that leg forward, the right leg forward. The left leg goes back a little bit. And always keep in mind trying to drop that hip. You can turn your chest one direction or the other and see if that modifies the pose in an interesting way. You can stay here, or if you'd like to change this up a little bit, come into a low flying dragon by bringing your hands to the mat inside your right foot. You can walk that right foot out to the side. You can come down onto your elbows, onto the mat, or maybe onto blocks to raise the floor. And you may find that you can bring that left knee back a little bit more. You can also walk that right foot out and then just bend that knee out into winged dragon. One of my hiking friends loves it when I talk about a winged dragon, and then if you want, you can come up onto your elbow, bring your right hand against the middle of your right thigh, make this into twisted dragon. Don has renamed this demented dragon. But you can feel, maybe you can feel, if you're doing this winged dragon, maybe you can feel your iliacus muscle, which is the flexor that you are stretching right now, all the way on the inside of your right pelvic bowl. That's where it's attached. You should be feeling this at your hip creases. You might feel this in your lower back, lower spine, because your psoas is attached to all your lumbar vertebrae, all the way up to the bottom vertebrae that holds your soft rib, T12. Try to drop that hip a little bit more. Begin to deepen your breath. Bring your palms back down onto the mat. Straighten your arms. Lifting your chest. Begin to walk your hands back. And then when you're able, bring that right leg back to meet the left. You come into table and you can do some cat-cows again. Or if you'd like, you can curl your toes under, lift up to down dog. This is up to you. These counter poses are meant to bring blood back into those tissues that have been stretched. Because tissues that have been stretched get the blood vessels pinched off a little bit. And then come back down onto your hands and knees. And then come up onto your knees. Now, if you have tender knees, like at least one of the birthday girls, you can roll up a towel like this and then put it underneath your tibia so that your kneecaps never hit the ground. And then grab a block and place a block beside your right foot. We're going to do half camel. And we're going to do the half camel a little different. Well, the camel will be different, but the pose after will be different. From here, bring your hands to your hips. Then walk your hands to the back of your hips. So your thumbs are pointing toward each other. From here, push your pelvis forward, lifting up your chest. Now you have options. You can look up, you can look forward, and it doesn't matter which you do. And this may be all you want to do. But if you'd like to do half camel, this is a back bend. So be careful if you have any back issues. You can raise that right arm up overhead, and then maybe just rotate that all the way back and reach for the block or reach for your heel. And all the while that you're doing that, keep pushing your pelvis forward. If you were up against the wall, your pelvis would still be on the wall, your quads would be on the wall. This is a stretch for your quads and your spine and your core. Have 3 more breaths. And on your next exhale, bend your knees, bring your glutes back down on top of your heels. Bring your hands out in front of you, like you're coming into child, but before you get there, walk your hands off to the left side. You can bring your knees wider. That might make this a little bit more effective. And then come down into child's pose. Walk your hands off the left side of your mat. So you're getting a stretch on that arm that you were reaching behind with. You're also getting a slight forward fold for your spine as a counter pose. And from here, the object is still the same, to relax those muscles that have been engaged. So whenever it's appropriate, just allow your elbows to come on down. Allow your head to come all the way down. And if it's too much, just walk your hands back. Breathe into wherever you feel the sensations are greatest. On your right ribs, your intercostal muscles are being stretched. Those are those little itty bitty muscles holding your ribs together. Those are the muscles that you engage when you breathe deeply. Begin to deepen your breath. And then push your fingertips into the floor, lifting up your arms. And then walk your hands back onto the left side of your mat. Lift your hips back up. Come into table on the left side of your mat. And do a few more cat-cows here. And really exaggerate your cat-cows. Now, the way your body feels is not necessarily the way your body looks. I surprised myself a while back when I was looking at a video of me teaching, and I thought I was doing these unbelievably deep cat-cows. And they were just normal cat-cows. But my spine felt it. Next time you come to center, pause. From here, lift up your left knee, back, step onto the back wall, really push that heel away. Feel the stretch in your hamstring. And then bring that left knee behind the right knee. We're coming into shoelace here. So looking between your legs, or I guess you can't look between your legs because your knees are stacked. But check your right foot should be off to the left side of your mat. And your left foot ought to be off to the right side of your mat. And then walk your hands back. You can come into a seated position. And then I think you would probably love to use a block or 2 or 3 to sit on. This pose is not necessarily man's best friend. But once you get settled here, you should have your knees roughly stacked. And if you can't get into it, just straighten out that bottom leg. Or go on your back and do a reclining swan. So from here, lift your spine tall. You can take your left hand, reach out towards the front right corner of your mat. Take your right arm, bring your right elbow underneath your left, and bring your palms together into eagle arms. If they don't come together, that's okay. The back of your hand close to the back of your other wrist, that's good. Or if it's just too tough, just grab opposite shoulders. Feel your shoulder blades being drawn way to the outside of your body, almost off to the sides of your ribs. From here, maybe you can lift your elbows up a little bit. Maybe you can push them away. Maybe that's just the dream. Doesn't matter. And then focus on your shoulder blades and try urging them to come down. Your arms and your elbows and your hands will come down automatically. But to get your shoulder blades down, that might take a little bit of work. But once you're there, just relax. This is stretching your rotators to give you more flexibility and mobility when you play pickleball or softball or golf. And on your next exhale, release. Bring your arms down and then come way out to the side. Open up your fingers wide and bring your palms together in front of you. Interlace your fingers however you wish. Then supinate your palms, pushing them away. And now slowly raise your palms up towards the ceiling and feel what's happening inside your shoulders. Feel the different muscles that are being moved in different directions. And then when you're ready, release. Let your arms float all the way down. Then take your right arm up towards the ceiling. Pat yourself on the back, right in the middle of your back. Take your left arm out to the side, thumb down. Bend that elbow. Bring it behind your back and walk that hand up towards your right hand. And maybe you can get a bind. maybe not. Maybe you can just grab your t-shirt or grab a strap. But what really helps is to lengthen your spine, straighten your spine. If you bend forward, it's a much longer dimension for you to make this bind. But notice your right arm is rotated up. Your left arm is rotated inward and down. Your shoulders are the most flexible joint in your body. And then on your next exhale, release. Bring your hands down, maybe shake them up. And then bend your elbows, get your arms like robot arms, bend at 90 degrees. Pretend you're grabbing a pair of baby birds, and then rock them back and forth. And feel how this is drawing more fluid into your shoulders. And then release. Okay, the next pose is going to require getting back into table. So if this works for you, you can just roll forward onto your knees. If not, just lean back, kick your feet free, and I'll meet you in table. And once you get in table, you know what to do. Cat cow. Or down dog. And then gently return your knees down onto your mat. Lift your left leg up and back. Put it on the back wall. Push that heel away so you can really feel that hamstring. And then bring that foot up on the outside of your pinky toe, pinky finger. Rise up into baby dragon. You can move that left knee or right knee back a little bit. But start with a pose that works for you. Don't make it so onerous that you cannot relax into it. So you can overstep this if you wish. Maybe you want to keep just vertical and then just try dropping your hips. And it might be a condition that you can move that right knee back another half inch or so. Let's see what works. And if you want, you can always bring your hands down onto the mat into high flying dragon. Next week, I'll be giving out demerits for those of you who don't follow my exact cues, but you're free this week. The only rule in yoga is do what's right for your body. It really doesn't matter who the instructor is. You can stay here if you wish. If you'd like to modify this, you can always bring your hands down onto the mat. Walk that left foot out a little bit or a lot. Come down onto your elbows. Into low flying dragon. You can bend that left knee out to the side, make this a wing dragon again. Or you could lift that left arm up and push it on your middle of your left thigh into Demented Dragon. But lengthen your spine. Maybe you can push that right knee back a little bit more. But if your body begins to object and your muscles are screaming, show some empathy and make a modification. There will be other days where your body will be more forgiving or more accepting. And there's no need to overdo it. Begin to deepen your breath. Bring your palms to the mat. Straighten out your arms. Walk your hands back towards your right knee. And when you can, release it, right leg back or left leg back to meet the right. Do a couple of cat cows here. Your hip flexors are so happy with you right now. You can curl your toes under, lift your hips up and back again. But that's just me. If you have tight hamstrings and you're doing down dog, maybe you want to just step all the way to the outside of the mat. See how much more generous this is. And then lower your knees back down. Couple more cat cows. And then come up onto your knees. We have another half camel to do. So from here, hands on your hips, walk your hands to the back of your pelvis, lift your chest high, push your hips forward, arch your back. And this might be where you need to stay. And if it is, that is the intelligent thing to do. Don't do any more. But if your body is willing today, take that left hand up towards the ceiling, bring it all the way back around behind you, and reach for that block or your heel. Now you can always come up onto your toes. That elevates your heel a little bit higher. So you have all kinds of options here. But try to square your chest, your hips towards the front of your mat. And use your breath to help soften those tissues that are really being stretched. Primarily your quads and your abdominals, your spine. And on your next exhale, release, bend your knees, bring your hips back a bit. Bring your hands down onto the mat, into table. And do a few cat-cows. And then spread your knees wide. Bring your feet together. Walk your hands forward and then off to the right side of your mat. And then lower your hips down on top of your heels so that you get a nice stretch through your left side body. You may need to walk your fingers farther forward to get a little bit more sensation. Or bring them in closer if it's too much. You can walk them farther off to the right. I'm going to turn the lights on just a tiny bit. Begin to deepen your breath. On your next inhale, walk your hands back just onto the edge of your mat. And on an inhale, lift your hips up. Bring your knees toward each other into a narrow table and do a couple more cat-cows. You can also do a down dog. And the next time you come to center pause, from here, lift your right foot up. Put that right heel on that back wall. Flexing that right foot. And then bring that right knee down behind the left. And again, working towards the back of your mat. Check to see if your feet can get off to the sides of the mat. Now I know a couple of ladies who can actually get their legs at right angles to the side of the mat in this pose. It hurts just looking at them. But that's probably not what your body wants to do. Again, you can use a block. Give your hips a little bit more space. And this side is different from the other side. So don't worry about it. Close your eyes, go inside your body, see what's happening. What's happening in your hip sockets. This pose is directed at your glutes and your hip sockets. And open your eyes. Bring your right arm palm up towards the left front corner of the mat. Take your left arm, bring your left elbow underneath the right. And then maybe you can get your palms together on this side. Maybe not. A lot of this has to do with if you're right-handed or left-handed. If If you have broad shoulders or narrow shoulders, there is not one right pose, but the feelings that you should be getting are from your shoulders being drawn outward. And lift your elbows up a little bit, push your elbows away, and then focus on your shoulder blades and lower your shoulder blades down. Then relax your arms. Just soften into this position. If your muscles can't soften, then the tension never goes to your fascia. Your fascia doesn't get stimulated to draw your stem cells to them to create more space for your body. So back up if your muscles are just too engaged. And on your next exhale, release. Bring your arms all the way down. Bring them out to the side. Spread your fingers wide again. Chest high. Then bring your palms together. Interlace your fingers the opposite direction. This will feel quite a bit different. Now, supinate your palms. And then again, be a witness to what your muscles are experiencing as you slowly raise your arms up. The slower you can do it, the more you can detect. Maybe one side is significantly easier than the other. And then when you're ready, release. Bring your arms all the way down. Raise your left arm up towards the ceiling. Pat yourself on the back. Right arm goes out, thumb down. Bring the right hand, the back of your right hand, and walk it up towards your left hand. And again, you may have a different history on this side of your body. And then on your next exhale, release. Bring both arms down. Shake them out. Grab your baby birds. Let your shoulder blades down your back as you're shaking your baby birds. And then when you come to center again, pause. We're not going into table again, so if this works for you, you can just lean back, let your legs spring forward, and just bring them forward. Walk the feet out towards the front of your mat, push your heels away, your hands behind your hips, rotate on your heels. This will rotate your femurs in your hip socket. And then when you're ready, bend your elbows, come down onto your back. Raise your arms up towards the ceiling. And then lower them down. onto the floor beyond. And stretch from your palms to your heels. Feel the back body really stretching. And then your toes to your fingers. Bring your arms back down by your sides. Bend your knees and walk your footprints up towards your sit bones. Draw your knees into your chest. Give yourself a squeeze. Straighten your spine so that your sacrum is down on the mat. And rock from left to right. And then bring your arms out into T. And on an exhale, slowly lower your knees off to the right. Your gaze and turn towards your left hand. If you need more space, just move your head an inch to the left. You can grab onto that left knee with your right hand. If your knees don't come together, maybe put a block in between. You don't want any body part to be suspended in air. You want the support of earth to use against gravity. That will allow your muscles to soften. That will also tell your muscles that there's no need to resist because they can't go any further. That's just another one of the ways that you can use to help your body relax. Feel a stretch across your chest from your left shoulder down to your right hip. Soften your core. Soften your lower abdomen. Soften your glutes. Begin to deepen your breath. On your next inhale, bring your knees back to center. And then just bend your knees off to the left, twisting to the left. Your gaze comes back towards your right hand. And see what you feel. Those muscles that are still engaged or want to be engaged, just think that they are trying to protect you. That's their job. They don't really know any better. So it's up to you to find a way to communicate with them, to soften. Now, it might be that you can take your right hand and just touch your right glutes or your lower back. And the mere act of touching your own body gives those muscles the confidence that they aren't going to be required to get you out of there really quick. So they'll soften. You can use the same techniques that you learn in Yin to soften your muscles. Just soften muscles at nighttime so that you can fall asleep a little bit easier. Soften your jaw. Release the muscles behind your eyes. And soften your tongues. Use your breath to bring more blood, more oxygen, more water to those areas that are still engaged. Begin to deepen your breath. On your next inhale, bring your knees back to center. Draw them into your chest and rock from left to right. Again, push your hips away, and that will bring your sacrum down onto the mat, the small of your back onto the mat. Massaging those muscles outside your spinal cord. And then next time you come to center pause, from here release one leg out to the front corner of the mat. And then the other. And grab your blocks. Do the 2 block Shavasana. And remember to flatten those right underneath your Or your shoulder blades, the flat bite. And the long dimension goes left to right. Take a deep cleansing breath in through your nose. Exhale out through your nose. Your arms can be by your side. You might find if you bring them out into T, you'll lift more, release in your shoulders. And then just let your arms come down and rest on the mat or on the floor. And if your arms are still up in the air, just move them a little bit closer toward your legs so that they get supported. Begin to deepen your breath. Bring your awareness back into your space. Bring movement to your fingers and to your toes. To your wrists and to your ankles. Gently roll your head from left to right. Then on your next inhale, carefully lift your head up, move the block aside, roll onto one side so that you can remove that block. Come back onto your back, give yourself another squeeze. On your knees into your chest. Again, massaging your spine. And then coming all the way over onto your right side. Pause there for just a moment. Scan your body for any hidden tension that you might want to address later this week. And then use the strength in your left hand to push the floor away and rise up into a seated position. Thank you for sharing your yoga practice with me this afternoon. You are very motivating to me to continue teaching because of your dedication to the health of your own body. Take the compassion and empathy that you practice every time you step onto your mat with you wherever you go and share it with every person you meet. Namaste.
Namaste.
My name is Clint, and this has been Yin Yoga. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.